Welcome back, everybody. We're at T-minus 16 minutes and 45 seconds to go until launch here. An exciting evening for all of us here at Blue Origin. I'm so glad that you've joined us. Now, we have spoken about the wealth of experience in the New Glenn launch and mission control rooms upstairs, and I want to take it back to Maggie upstairs, who is standing by up there. Maggie, you with us?
Yep, Ariane, I am back at Mission Control, and as we make our way towards terminal count, the energy is high. It might seem like it's a little quiet with everyone sitting down, but the communications are ongoing. The launch director and his team are working super hard to get us there.
I love it. They're in the zone. So, Maggie, I'd love for you to talk us through some of the people behind the mission up there. Walk us through who's on console.
We've got some of our best and brightest here in the Mission Control Center. So the Mission Control Center is actually a network of rooms. We've got Mission Control, Launch Control, and engineering support rooms where our team is looking through data constantly. Now this whole team is led by our launch director. His name is Ben Dykstra. Ben is responsible for the launch, tip to tail. He is doing the go, no go, and making sure that we get our best chance of success. Ben actually comes from our New Shepard rocket. So Ben is a great example of how we take our flight pedigree from New Shepard and we are building it into New Glenn. Now Ben and I go way back. We worked on New Shepard together for quite a while, and I've had a chance to talk to him quite a bit this week. And I was asking him what his pre-launch traditions are and what he's bringing here to New Glenn. And he gave me a couple answers. One, he sets 3 alarms because he really does not want to miss his call. I have a feeling he didn't have to actually use all 3 of them today, but I'll ask him afterwards. And then he also sets little Post-it notes on the screens of his console mates so that they get a little funny note or a little encouraging thing from their launch director before they go. And then when we do terminal count, he will be doing his fist bumps with the entire team.
I love it. I know Ben is going to crush it. Why don't you give us some other highlights? Who else is supporting Ben with launch control today?
Ben is supported by a really large team, and we're not going to have time to touch on them all, but a couple here. First, we have Ann Dickey. Ann is the assistant flight director, and shout out to New Shepard again. Ann comes from that program as well. Now, Ann has been working the integrated schedule all week long, really making sure that this team is ready to go. And after we launch successfully, she is going to get herself an ice cream cone, and I will be joining her. Next, we have Martin De La Torre. Martin is a ground controller, which means that he will be working through all of the data and controls of our ground system out there at the pad. So as complicated as we all know rockets can be, the systems that are working around it are equally as complicated. And so Martin has a tough job today, but we know he's working hard. His favorite quote is from Stephen Hawking, and so he's got heroes, I think, like the rest of us. Next, we have Stephen Shelley. Now, again, you talked about the Jacqueline a little bit earlier. That's our offshore vessel, and Stephen Shelley is our offshore recovery lead. So as we go through this whole process, the team and the launch director, Ben, are constantly checking in with Stephen to make sure that we know that the barge is ready should we be able to land New Glenn. His launch day ritual is actually the same as Ben, another 3-alarm guy. So we'll be asking him as well. And then last, but certainly not least, we have Megan Lewis. Now, Megan is one of our 2 primary launch controllers, which means that she has control authority over a lot of these major systems on New Glenn. Megan is from Utah, and in a very sweet story, Megan is actually wearing a bracelet today that her grandfather gave her grandmother with charms for every Apollo mission that he worked. So a really incredible legacy of spaceflight in that family, and they're bringing it to the Blue family. So we're really proud of them today. Megan Lewis and team, led by Ben Dykstra, are getting it done.
I love it. Just some wonderful stories, and each one of them has their ritual. I'm glad that it seems like their alarm system has worked, because yes, they are all on console and ready to rock and roll today. That's a good thing. So, hey, Maggie, stay plugged in up there for us, and we will keep checking back in with you. All right, everybody, we're at T-minus 11 minutes and 40 seconds to go until launch. Why don't we take a moment here and send it over to the pad and check in on New Glenn as it gets ready for its first launch to space today. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. We're at T-minus 27 minutes and 5 seconds to go until launch. You may have noticed that we've added some more time to the clock. As we mentioned before, this is just our teams getting aligned, making sure that Each of the separate sub-teams have all gone through all of their checklists, make sure that everything is in the green, making sure that the weather here at the Cape and downrange, everything is within bounds. So again, if we need to add a couple more minutes, that is quite all right with us. But while we've got a little bit more time, I would like to check in with my colleague, Eddie Seifert, out there at Cars Park, where he's joined by Team Blue Origin, here our team that's based here in Florida. What you got going on down there, Eddie?
Yeah, hey Ariane, welcome back to the best seat in the house here at Cars Park. I'm with the Smith family. We're working at Blue Origin, and working on rockets is a family affair. I'm with father Mike Smith, son Corbin Smith, and granddaughter Elizabeth. Elizabeth, tell me, you've sent a postcard to space, is that right?
Yes.
And tell me, what was on your postcard?
There was rockets and planets.
Rockets and planets on the postcard. Now, Corbin, how did you get your start at Blue Origin?
So I first started up in Huntsville, where I worked with an amazing team on the engine crew, building BE-4 and BE-3U. Now I'm here down at Rocket Park, building the thrust structures for GS-2.
Excellent. Must be special to be working on that GS-2 rocket out there. And Mike, how about you? How did you get your start at Blue?
Well, it was my son that actually encouraged me to apply, and we got hired around the same time, and it's been awesome being able to work with him on different projects. We get to talk about work at home and do different things. We bleed blue at home.
Excellent, excellent. And Elizabeth, tell me, what are you most looking forward to today's launch?
For the rocket to go up in space.
Well, I think we're going to end on that note, Ariane. We're looking forward for that rocket to go to space. Let's send New Glenn to space. Let's light this candle.
I love it. It is a family affair, and I love seeing the different generations there, father, son, pair working at Blue. I look forward to seeing that little firecracker, that little girl joining us in a couple of years here in the future. It just speaks to, it takes years to build these rockets, and that's what we're here to do at Blue. We're here to build these rockets that are laying the foundation for building the road to space, right? And so that children like her can pick up the torch and build on top of that. We're setting forth so that they can build infrastructure in space, and really, it's all for the benefit of Earth. Well, with that, thanks, Eddie, for checking in with us. We are at T-minus 24 minutes and 10 seconds to go until launch. Let's check out New Glenn on the pad as it gets ready for launch this evening. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. We're at T-minus 19 minutes and 55 seconds to go until launch. New Glenn looking good there on the pad. We saw some beautiful views. As Denise has talked about, all the propellants are nice and chilled down. You saw the big, beautiful Blue Origin word mark and feather on that rocket. She is looking beautiful. But we do have a little bit more time here. Why don't we take a moment to talk about the BE-4 engines. We're looking at the vehicle right now. At the base of the vehicle, oh, that's a pretty shot right there. You see the 7 nozzles of the 7 BE-4 engines. You want to tell us a little bit more, Denise?
Yeah, so New Glenn is powered by 7 BE-4 engines. Now, these are the nation's first reusable, oxidizer-rich stage combustion booster engines. They use liquid oxygen and liquefied natural gas, or LNG, which is essentially a commercial form of methane.
Yeah, and we selected LNG because it's cleaner burning and more efficient than kerosene, or also known as RP1, rocket propellant 1. That's what a lot of rockets use. It's also low cost and widely available, which is really important when you're doing lots of launches, which is our intention for this New Glenn program. I should also note that we have done a ton of testing on the BE-4 engine, and we also want to keep those costs down as well. All of it adds up, right? And one of the coolest aspects, though, about LNG is that it can self-pressurize its tank through a process known as autogenous repressurization, right? So this eliminates the need for costly and complex systems that use helium, which is pretty rare. So normally you got helium and other gases in there to push the pressures properly through the engines to get them ready to go. But with LNG, it basically does it on its own. That's what that means.
It's so fascinating. And, you know, in terms of power, each BE-4 engine generates an impressive 550,000 pounds of thrust. So when you combine all 7 engines, New Glenn produces about 3.85 million pounds of thrust at launch. And just to put that into perspective, that's roughly half the thrust of a Saturn V rocket, which took humans to the moon. Imagine that power of 200 Boeing 737 airplane engines all firing at once. That's what we're looking at here.
And that is a ton of power. You see that these images here, this video, this is from our test facility down in West Texas. And man, oh man, I have been down there actually for one of these tests. And our facility down in West Texas is in this valley. And it just reverberates. You feel like you're in the inside of a drum. It just shakes the entire valley, and I mean, it's just incredible. And we're putting 7 of those at the base of this vehicle. The other thing you should see in that video there is that it burns this really cool blue color. So that's another. I'm not saying that's why we chose this propellant, but it's a nice little bonus to it.
It sure is.
So a lot of power coming out of these engines, but then also a lot of interesting technology that's gone into the turbo pumps too. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
They sure are. So the turbo pumps, which pump fuel and oxygen, are also incredibly powerful. Together, they produce the equivalent amount of horsepower needed to power 2 Nimitz-class aircraft carriers at full speed. Yet each turbo pump is small enough to fit in the back seat of your car.
Think about that. I mean, the comparison is crazy, but just think about that efficiency that goes into that turbo machinery. Then you also see here, obviously, the comparison between our BE-4 engine. So there are 7 of those on the base of the vehicle, and our BE-3U, BE-3 upper stage engines, or 2 of those on the second stage. I want to talk a little bit more here. You see the comparison of the BE-4 to the BE-3U. You also have a comparison of the power of it as well. You know, both of these engines are highly sophisticated and have unique functionality built for New Glenn itself. So for BE-4, as we noted, we've got 7 of these engines in total at the booster. We saw a cool image of that a second ago. The 3 middle engines are gimbaling engines that can pivot to help steer the rocket. So that will be working, of course, in conjunction with the fins at the top of the booster. Now, those 3 middle engines are going to relight to help with deceleration and landing burns. And the other 4 engines are fixed. And this is the combination that gives us both the power that we need, but also the flexibility we need for different stages of flight.
And you know, the BE-4 engines are produced at our manufacturing facility in Huntsville, Alabama, and they're tested rigorously at our facilities, both in West Texas and Huntsville, to ensure they meet the high standards.
Yeah, and we should note there are 7 of these on New Glenn. But our friends at ULA with their Vulcan rocket, they use 2 of these engines. And those have already flown successfully to space. So we are very proud of that these engines have already flown to space, and can't wait to see them power this New Glenn rocket as well. They are going to be rattling this building very, very shortly. Well, with that, at T-minus 35 minutes to go until launch, let's toss it back to the rocket and check out New Glenn as this vehicle gets ready for its launch to space this evening. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. We are at T-minus 25 minutes and 40 seconds to go until launch. You may have seen we've been adding some time to the clock. This is to allow our teams to go through their checklists. Keep in mind there are multiple sub-teams that are up there in launch and mission control. We want to make sure that everything is ready to go, and if some of those items on the checklist take a little bit of extra time, we are going to do so, especially since it is NG1. We want to make sure that everybody is prepared and everything is aligned. We should also mention, again, we have to keep our eyes on the weather, both here and downrange. So with that, let's continue to check out New Glenn on the pad as this rocket and our teams get ready for NG1. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. We're at T-minus 23 minutes and 45 seconds to go till launch. With all this action going on upstairs at Launch and Mission Control, why don't we check in with our friend Maggie. Maggie, you got me?
Loud and clear, Ariane.
Right on. What's going on up there? What are you hearing about the status of our teams?
Yep, things are busy. The team is continuing to work through a few anomalies before we can proceed into terminal count. So we've got the engineers looking at all that data. We've got the controllers working through workarounds. So something that I think people don't always think about is that we have an enormous amount of what we're doing here in pre-launch procedures that's, scripted. We can plan it. But when off-nominal things are happening, we've got a team of controllers who can manually operate these systems. So the team that we talked about in our last bit, they are actually going through and able to turn things on and off, put different pressure through different valves. They are working through everything they can to make sure that we have a chance to launch today.
Fantastic. Yes, it's, we run through, when you talk about all the preparation for a launch, of course, we talk about, testing the rocket itself, but we also go through a lot of these simulations in terms of the operations with our team, and you test as much as you can, you go through as many rehearsals as possible, but sometimes day of, you gotta put that's why we got the really smart people in there so that they can work through whatever it is they're finding that might be a little bit off, and that's what our team is doing up there. Maggie, what
Ariane,
else? Sorry, go ahead.
No, the team here has gotten some good practice. I think we all saw the hot fire that we recently successfully made it through. So that is, almost everything up until launch. Before that, we had a successful second stage hot fire. Those are those BE3U engines. And before that, we were doing tanking tests, mass simulators. We've done component testing, system testing. And a lot of the engineers that are working in this room are actually responsible engineers on the floor. So they've gotten their hands on this hardware. They know their systems.
Excellent. Very good point. I think I've always appreciated what we do here at Blue Origin. We tend to rotate our engineers. A lot of them, as you said, get to go down to the floor, see their hardware maybe that they've designed, talk to the men and women that are fabricating, but then also assembling the vehicle. They are very, very in tune, in touch with this vehicle. So if there are things for them to work, especially in these last minutes, we've got the right team to do it. Maggie, I want to thank you again for bringing us all the details. We've got a couple of minutes to go here. We got 20 minutes and 47 seconds to go until launch. Why don't we take a look at New Glenn as this rocket gets ready to go to space. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us. We are T-minus 19 minutes to go until launch here, and while our teams are continuing to get aligned, why don't we take a moment to chat a little bit about this amazing building we are in, the factory at Rocket Park here in Florida. This is where it all comes together, where we bend the metal on New Glenn. I literally see people down there bending metal, pulling, putting the components together, testing, cleaning. But also, not only do we talk about, just all the intricate pieces and parts here, but to build a rocket like this, the sheer scale of the facility here, this factory, but also the other buildings around here are just mind-blowing.
It really is quite impressive. So Rocket Park is essentially where we bring our rocket dreams to life. We're talking about state-of-the-art manufacturing and assembly areas designed to produce rockets efficiently and, of course, sustainably. This is where the stages of New Glenn come together.
Yeah, exactly. And the folks here at Rocket Park are not just building rockets, they're really shaping the future of space travel. I should say, I've had the good fortune of being here for 10 years now, and I have seen this facility, the whole park, in addition to Launch Complex 36, come together, and it is just amazing. Like, really from the bottom up, and the ability to build the next generation rocket in the next generation rocket factory. Like, our team is given what they need to make just an incredible vehicle. Why don't we take a deeper look at the home of New Glenn, Rocket Park.
Welcome to Blue Origin's Rocket Park in Florida, the home of New Glenn. This is where our orbital rocket is designed, built, integrated, launched, refurbished, and reflown, all within a 9-mile radius along Florida's Space Coast. Rocket Park is an active operations site for many Blue Origin activities, including manufacturing, integration and testing for New Glenn, and production of our Blue Moon lunar landers and future programs. Florida's Space Coast is 72 miles long and steeped in more than 6 decades of human spaceflight history. We stand on the shoulders of giants. New Glenn will help us build a road to space for the benefit of Earth. It's the foundation of everything we will accomplish. It will deliver cargo and crew to anywhere, including the moon, and help us establish a permanent lunar presence. It will enable us to harness the resources of space and launch all kinds of infrastructure to make space accessible, usable, and affordable for humans. The factory on Merritt Island is the centerpiece of Rocket Park. It's here where New Glenn is built and tested. The high bay is where New Glenn becomes real. Raw material enters at one end, and completed rocket stages roll out the other side. From there, New Glenn heads to the surface coatings facility for its thermal protection, paint, and artwork. It then heads to tank cleaning and test, or TCAT, for pressure testing and cleaning. The factory is also home to New Glenn's Mission Control. On launch days, Mission Control comes alive as the rocket rolls out from its hangar down the road and goes vertical at Launch Complex 36. This historic launch site was rebuilt from the ground up just for New Glenn. Protected by 2 lightning towers, almost double the height of the Statue of Liberty, New Glenn prepares for liftoff at mile marker 0. This is where the road to space begins.
What a beautiful area Rocket Park is in. There's just so much history here on the Space Coast, and we are eager to write our own chapter with New Glenn.
Absolutely. There really is just so much history, and there's something to be said about the testing and integration and design teams all working so closely together. I know that working on the programs myself, being able to talk to the designers and the people who are making the hardware is just so valuable to increase communication and efficiency, and our campus really allows for that.
100%. The physical proximity is really, really important. And it's not known, actually, but historically rockets have launched out of the Cape, but they haven't been built here. And so to be able to build our rocket here, do the integration here of the rocket, but then also obviously the payload with the rocket. And then when we get GS1, we get the booster back, we'll be doing all of the refurbishment here. That is so important, that co-location, to have that all come together. And, you know, I love that video because you see all the action. As I mentioned, you know, it's so funny. I was looking through photos earlier today, and I've got photos in the flame trench when they were just putting it up. You know, they were pouring concrete. You know, I remember being in this facility when there weren't doors on. It was just, you know, dirt on the ground. I remember we had no joke, we had a poll when they were clearing the land for this rocket park as to how many turtles we would find, because we have to relocate all of the turtles because there's incredible wildlife in this area. So of course we wanted to make sure that we protect those animals and the wildlife. And so we had a poll as to how many turtles we were going to find. God, I wish I could remember.
I was going to say, do you
remember? I know. I didn't win it, clearly. But, you know, there's just so much work that went into building this facility from the ground up. And to be here today is just, it feels surreal in many ways. And, you know, I was just talking a little bit about the factory itself, but the launch complex, you know, LC-36, as you touched on earlier this evening, has been around for a long time, has been where many historic rockets and missions have launched from. And we basically stripped it down to the ground and rebuilt it for this world-class rocket for decades to come. You know, we invested in this facility knowing that we're going to be here a while. With that said, we also here at Blue Origin like to pay homage to the giants who have the shoulders upon which we stand, right? Like the vehicle, of course, is named New Glenn. But also what's really cool is, and you can't quite see it here in the dark, but we kept what's called the blockhouse. So during a lot of the previous launches, there would actually be a crew in the blockhouse, which is not very far from that launch pad, when they launched a rocket. This thing is like a concrete fort, basically. It's not very big, and on the inside, it's got these massive, heavy doors that close to protect the teams. To be very clear, we're not using that blockhouse tonight. We don't use it in our operations, but it is something that we have kept on site because of the history that is in that facility. I hope that one day I'll be able to go back in there. I did get a chance to peek my head in a couple of years ago. It feels almost like, what's the right way of putting it? It feels like a step into the past.
Yeah.
You know, the old computers and like, you know, the ashtrays. They're literally cigarettes that are still there from back in the day. We don't allow that in our launch control rooms. But again, clearly a throwback to the past. But just this facility, it feels really good to be here. It feels like we're set up for success as much as possible, which is really, really great. Okay, we are at T-minus now 36 minutes and 40 seconds to go until launch. Again, our team has added more time to the clock. They are working through their checklist. There's clearly some things that they want to spend a little bit more time on, and that is okay. I will reiterate, we have spent years designing this rocket. We have spent months and months designing this mission, building this particular vehicle as well. The design and test that's gone into the engines that are powering this rocket. If we need a couple more minutes, especially on this first launch, that is okay with us. You know, we want to give our team the right time and the space that they need to, you know, to work on whatever they got going on up there. I also want to, you know, keep in mind, my understanding is that the weather continues to stay inbounds here at the Cape, as well as out at sea. But for the moment, we have decided to put more time on the clock, which means that we still have a chance, still have the opportunity to launch this evening. I should say,
I was waiting for it,
I
Ariane.
know, it's pretty apropos because this vehicle says,
So you're telling me there's a chance?
that is the name of this booster. So yes, everything is, it's like it was meant to be for this vehicle.
It really
Okay,
is.
with that, we are T-minus 35 minutes to go until launch. Let's continue to check out New Glenn on the pad as it continues to prepare for its launch to space this evening. Welcome back, everybody. We're at T-minus 31 minutes and 30 seconds to go until launch. As you may have noted, we continued to add time back to the clock. That, of course, is to make sure that our teams are aligned. I do understand that we're working an issue. That is okay. That means, if we're adding time to the clock, it means that the team thinks that there might be a possibility that we can sort it out so we can get to a launch this evening. So we're going to give them the time that they need. Beautiful beautiful view of the vehicle on the pad there. From the outside, she sure looks ready to go, but of course, there's so much that goes into a complex vehicle like this. But since we do have some time, why don't we take a closer look at our vision and mission at Blue Origin? As we've said time and time again, we're building a road to space for the benefit of Earth. This vision isn't only about exploring space, it's about making life better here on Earth. Let's check it out a bit more about our vision.
New Shepard is just the beginning.
The first step.
From the very start, it's only been about one thing: Earth.
Earth, our Blue Origin.
We've sent robotic probes all over the solar system, and it's full of wonders: gas giants, rocky moons.
Earth is the best planet. It is not close.
Despite the variety, despite the wonder in the solar system,
there's no place like home.
Earth is our home, and there is no other place like it.
All life on Earth are uniquely matched to this planet. There's nothing like it anywhere else in the solar system. Not even close, no way.
We have no choice but to preserve Earth.
Preserve this planet, this one.
We get to focus on the future, and the future is nothing without Earth.
For almost all of human history, Earth has seemed big.
It seemed big, but we now know it's small, it's finite. And we know that the rate that we're using Earth's resources is not sustainable.
Earth has things that we need to work on in the here and now.
But there are also long-term problems.
We can't wait to work on the long-term problems. We have to work on both.
One fundamental long-term problem.
We will run out of energy on Earth.
It's just arithmetic. It's going to happen. Humans have always used about 100 watts of power. That's our natural metabolic rate.
But in our developed technological society, we use over 10,000 watts of power per person.
Humans' use of energy is not actually a bad thing.
We live in an era of dynamism and growth.
There are so many good things that happen when we use energy.
Think about technology, transportation, hospitals, data.
As humans, we are at our best when we are inventing, when we are growing, when we are making progress.
But humans are doubling our energy use every 25 years, and that's unsustainable. Today, you could cover all of humanity's energy needs by covering the state of Nevada in solar cells. But at that rate of growth, in 200 years, you'd have to cover the entire planet in solar cells.
What can we do? Can we be more efficient? Yes, but we have been.
Today's technology is more efficient in nearly every manner.
We are gaining efficiency, and yet, when we gain more efficiency, what do?
We use more energy.
We have an ever-increasing demand for more energy.
So what if we just use less? Well, that doesn't work either. Throttling energy use means slowing down progress. You stop living in a world of abundance and you move to a world of scarcity and rationing.
There has to be another way.
There is another way. Space.
Space is full of abundant resources and energy.
Space is vast and practically limitless. If we can learn to harness the power of space and the resources of space, we can tap the limitless resources to help preserve this planet.
We can go to space for what we need. We'll make it routine, safe, and cost-effective to get there.
We will build the rockets and the destinations for doing real work in space.
We can do even more than this. We can move the most polluting industries from Earth into space where they can't hurt the Earth or the environment.
We can return Earth to a beautiful natural state. It will be like a garden, like a national park. A place for education, for creativity, and for recreation.
A place for enjoyment and for nature to thrive. In space, we can expand humanity. We don't want to leave Earth behind, but preserve it and expand humanity into space.
We can have 1 trillion humans in the solar system, which means we'd have 1,000 Mozarts and 1,000 Einsteins. This would be an incredible civilization.
Humanity will grow and progress and use energy for good.
Humanity can expand into the solar system by building destinations close to Earth, close to our home planet.
New places, places we haven't even dreamed of yet.
Places that feel like home. Places where great work can be done using the resources of space. An expanse that is meant for everyone, all kinds of people.
This is a hopeful future, an enduring human presence in space. Space is the long-term solution for Earth.
We are building a critical part of the infrastructure that's going to allow others to unlock
the road to space so that future generations can unleash their creativity.
It won't be easy. Space must become much, much more accessible to make this vision a reality.
Big things start somewhere, and that somewhere happens to be today.
There are certain gates we have to go through, certain prerequisites. If we don't do these, we will never get there.
First, we have to radically lower the cost of access to space.
This means reusable rockets.
We have to get really good at using rockets over and over.
Reusable rockets, reusable engines.
Once you learn how to do that, you can basically start spinning this flywheel where the more you fly, the cheaper it gets. The cheaper it gets, the more you fly.
Launch, land, repeat.
Going back and landing a rocket is really hard. And it is absolutely essential that we get good at that so that we can drive down the cost of launch vehicles.
BE-3, BE-4, BE-7, all made from the ground up to be reusable propulsion systems.
Operational reusability. That means making space travel as routine as air travel is.
This is what will radically bring down the cost of getting to space.
And we are bringing all of that learning to New Glenn, the next step of building the road to space.
Once you have low-cost access to space, the next gate becomes harnessing the resources of the solar system.
There are so many more resources up there in space than there is on our planet.
I mean, everyone's familiar with this idea of locally sourced goods, and this is just a really extreme version of that.
The moon is where we'll learn to do all this.
The moon has a vast quantity of resources.
And if we can learn to harness those resources, we can travel without stressing the Earth.
That's the goal. We'll go to space, and we'll use its resources to power our transportation and build destinations.
Anything we need, we will use the stuff in space to make it happen.
The moon is the next thing. We're going back.
It's time to go back to the moon, this time to stay. Make no mistake about this. This is not going to get done by any one generation. One of the things that we have to do is inspire those future generations.
This vision of millions of people living and working in space for the benefit of Earth is a very, very long-term vision.
It's gonna take generations.
We have to make sure that what we're doing today is setting up the next generation.
It's going to take all kinds of people.
Engineers, entrepreneurs, architects, artists, you, your children, your grandchildren.
This is kind of humanity's cathedral. You know, cathedrals took multiple generations of artisans and craftsmen and masons to build. And there was never the expectation that one person would design and fully execute the vision.
We have to inspire the next generation to carry this torch for the benefit of Earth.
For the benefit of Earth.
For the benefit of Earth.
We are Blue Origin.
And we will do all of this.
We'll do all of this.
For the benefit of Earth.
such an inspiring message. You know, actually our very name, Blue Origin, means Earth, right? So, you know, when our future generations are out there looking back, they will look back at their blue origin, at Earth, right? And so we really need to protect this planet. The other reason why I love our name Blue Origin is it means Earth. It means all of us. We are building these really cool, you know, pieces of space technology, not only just for one country, not only for one hemisphere, it really is for the entire world. And that's why, you know, I love that that our company has this bigger, broader vision. You know, actually, before I took my current role, I was leading our commercial and international sales, and it was just really nice to get out there and talk to our international customers and people from around the world in the space industry. I should say a big shout out to them out there if you guys are watching, you know, and really talking to them about whether it's New Glenn or Blue Ring or our lunar lander, what they can do and how they can take advantage of our technologies. I just love that we think broadly like that, and it's one of the many things that's kept me here at Blue. But I also want to talk, you know, obviously a main theme of that video there is this idea that as part of the long-term vision, we really need to protect this planet and the role of space technologies. What we're doing at Blue and what other organizations are doing around the world is so important because it is going to help protect Earth, right? And that's also why we start with reusable rockets and reusable rocket engines and the way that we're designing them to run on propellants that are less harmful to the Earth, like liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen, and LNG. We were talking about that earlier. It's just so important.
It gives me such a sense of pride because it really is about the everyday work that we do now and how that would impact future generations. So all of this is going to create a longer term impact on Earth that's truly going to benefit humans for future generations. By focusing on the sustainability of our designs, we're really ensuring that our advancements in space technology do not come at the expense of our home planet Earth.
Yeah, you know, a couple of minutes ago, we threw it back to our co-host Eddie out there at Cars Park, and again, talking about the multiple generations, how cool is it that he was there with the father-son pair that both work at Blue, plus the son's daughter that's there, and she's just going wild over space, and she can't wait to see, you know, this rocket launch. We have to think in that sort of generational. That generational time scale, right? There was also, you know, our teammate that's up in launch control, whose grandfather worked, you know, on Apollo, and here she is, you can see she's pregnant in the photo. Like, who knows what her child is going to end up doing? And hopefully, what we're doing here at Blue is going to benefit, again, these next generations. We're building the road to space with these first initial steps tonight. You know, New Glenn. We're also talking about Blue Ring. Blue Ring is one of the first building blocks of the infrastructure that's up there in space, right? It's not just about the transportation, which is crucial, don't get me wrong, but then once we're up there, you know, we're going to need to support others, you know, in this case, you know, our customers, but also ourselves, when I say ourselves, Blue Origin and some of the missions we're doing, as we build our capabilities out there. By definition, space is infinite. And so if we can take advantage of that, and if we can put things up there that will help us take advantage of that, I mean,
for the benefit of Earth.
For the benefit of Earth, the future is bright. Okay, with that, we are T-minus 16 minutes and 40 seconds to go until launch. Our teams continue to get aligned. They're working on a couple of issues. This is our first launch. They need that extra time. We're going to give it to them because otherwise speaking, this team is ready to rock and roll, and that rocket there looks chilled in and ready to go to space. So with that, let's continue to check out New Glenn on the pad, ready for NG1. Okay, we've just been getting an update from Mission Control. We are standing down today's launch attempt to troubleshoot a vehicle subsystem issue that will take us beyond our launch window. We are reviewing opportunities for our next launch attempt. So we've scrubbed today's NG-1 mission to give the team more time to work that issue, and we're reviewing what other things that we might need to get done in that period. When we know when the next opportunity is, of course, we will let everybody know. Now, to give the viewers a sense of what happens next, the launch team is now working to detank and safe the vehicle. From there, we're going to assess, as mentioned, what other things we might want to get done in our downtime, and that is what's going to guide when the next launch opportunity will be. Follow us on social media. That's the way to stay up to date on announcements for that next launch attempt. We do want to thank you for joining us. We can't wait to get right back here for our next launch attempt. Stay tuned. Gradatum for Rossiter.
100万订阅大突破，台视新闻 TTVNews 感谢有你。重要直播随时掌握，时事新闻不漏接，一刀未剪，新闻看得更完整。国际重大事件 ，catch 时事最新脉动，按赞订阅，开启小铃铛。